Hello, students. Welcome back to your history class. I am Mrs. Jenny Shah, and we are doing Chapter 9, the Industrial Revolution. Last class, I introduced you to this theme and I briefed you over what you should expect in this theme. We are basically moving towards modernization. Now, the timeline of this chapter is from 1700 to 2000. This timeline will give you an idea of what was happening in different parts of the world in the last 3 centuries. How people in different countries contributed to the making of our modern world. It will tell you about the slave trade in Africa and the establishment of the apartheid regime in South Africa. It will also tell you about the social movements in Europe and the formation of nation states. It will also include expansion of the imperial powers and the process of colonization. We will also discuss about democratic and anti-colonial movements that have swept through the world in the last century. We will refer to some of the inventions and technological developments that are now associated with modernity. Just like with all other timelines, this one will also focus on a few dates. When you see a series of dates in a timeline, never think that these are the only dates you need to know. Always find out why different timelines focus on different types of date and what does the selection of date tell you. Please go through the timeline in your textbooks and finish the first activity, that is, you're going to compare the 4 timelines given in the book. You will find that the chronological reference periods in the left-hand column differ. Can you think why why the chronological reference differs? Try and design a timeline of your own, giving reasons for your selection. So you're going to see Africa, Europe, Asia, South Asia, America, Australia, and Pacific Islands, and you're going to compare and you're going to find out the reasons why there is a lag. Okay? Now, the Industrial Revolution. This is the world map. The transformation of industry and economy in Britain between the 1780s and the 1850s is called the First Industrial Revolution. This had far-reaching effects in Britain. Later, similar changes occurred in European countries and in the USA. These were to have a major impact on the society and the economy of those countries and also the rest of the world. The second revolution, the second industrial revolution that occurred about after 1850 came into new eras like the chemical and electrical industry. In that period, Britain fell behind and lost its position as the world's leading industrial power. It was now overtaken by Germany and the USA. That is about the second revolution, but this entire chapter is about the Industrial Revolution, and we begin with learning about the first Industrial Revolution. This phase of the industrial development in Britain is strongly associated with new machinery and technologies. This made it possible to produce goods on a massive scale compared to handicraft and handloom industries. In this chapter, we will see the changes that came into the cotton and iron industries. Soon, steam became a new source of power and began to be used on a wide scale. Especially in the British industries. Its use led to faster forms of transportation by ships and railways. Many of the inventors and businessmen who brought about these changes were often neither personally wealthy nor educated in basic science like physics or chemistry. You will learn this when we glance into their background. Industrialization led to a greater prosperities for some, but in the initial stages it was linked with poor living and working conditions of millions of people, including women and children. This sparked off protest, which forced the government to enact laws for regulating the conditions of work. So basically, the transformation of industry and the economy between 1780s and 1850 is known as the first industrial revolution. This had an impact on the society and economy of the European countries, and industrial development is strongly associated with new machinery and technology. New technology and machinery helped to produce goods on a massive scale compared to the handicrafts and handloom. A new source of power, steam, began to be used in British industries. Steam was used for transportation, railways, and ships. And another interesting fact was the ones who invented this were neither wealthy nor educated. The term Industrial Revolution was used by French scholars Georges Michelet in France and Frederick Engels in Germany. It was used for the first time in the English by the philosopher and economist Arnold Toynbee. It was used to describe the changes that occurred in the British industrial development between 1760 and 1820. These dates coincided with those of the reign of George III, on which Toynbee was giving a series of lectures at Oxford University. His lectures were later published in 1884 after his untimely death as a book called Lectures on Industrial Revolution in England. Later, historians T.S. Ashton, Paul Montague, and Eric Hobsbawm broadly agreed to Toynbee. There was a remarkable economic growth from 1780 to 1820 in the cotton and iron industries, in coal mining, as well as in the building of roads and canals and in foreign trade. Ashton celebrated the Industrial Revolution when England was swept by a wave of gadgets. So, industrialization made some people very wealthy, but it also created poor living, poor working conditions for millions and millions of people, and this created a protest. And as a result of the protest, the government had to enforce a few laws. The term Industrial Revolution was used by the European scholars Georges Michelet in France and Frederick Engels in Germany. These are a few pictures of that time that show us about the industrialization. Then we learned about Arnold Toynbee. He was the world industrial revolution's first used by Arnold Toynbee, who was a philosopher and an economist. He used to describe the changes that occurred in the British industrial development. His lectures were published in 1884, and it is called the Lectures on the Industrial Revolution in England, Popular Address, Notes, and Other Fragments. Later on, historians like T.S. Ashton, Paul Montoux, and Eric Hobsbawm agreed with Toynbee that there was a remarkable growth in the cotton and iron industries, coal mining, building of roads and canals, and foreign trade. So now we all know the background. You all know when this term was used, how was it used, for what reason was it used, and how later on, after Toynbee's death, how people started to accept what he said and agree with it. Okay, so with this, children, I end this class here. Stay home, stay safe, do the timeline homework I have given you. Meet you next time. Take care, keep learning. Thank you.